So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Who Talks First. I am one of your hosts. I'm CT.
I'm your other host, Solo. It has nothing to do with Han Solo.
Nope.
Right, let's move forward.
There we go. That's how we started off. Every podcast is going to start with a disclaimer being like, Solo has nothing to do with Han Solo. I actually hate Han Solo. Oh my god, it has to do with Gundam Wing.
It's a Gundam Wing reference. God, learn your stuff.
Exactly. So anyway, we are a weekly podcast.
We are.
That mostly talks about Star Wars.
Yes.
Sometimes we talk about other things.
But not very much lately.
No, we saw Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought about maybe doing a podcast about that, but I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Neither of us loved it.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, it was a fun movie. I had a
fine.
good time, but I'm like, what would we... I was like, maybe let's do a Guardians. Like,
No.
Yondu was cool. I really like that arrow. Like, the arrow thing I think is just the coolest thing, but that's...
Gamora and Nebula, solid. Glad that they, had a lot of time with each other, but
Yeah.
there's not much else to say.
Nope.
Anyway, back to Star Wars.
Yeah, anyway, so, this week on, our podcast, on Who Talks First, we're going to be talking about fairy tale symbolism within the Star Wars franchise, because, for many a year, I've been arguing with people that Star Wars is indeed a fairy tale, as said by George Lucas himself. I'm not I'll quote George Lucas so often, because people will, refute things, and I'm like, he's the one person you can't argue with.
He made this!
Of course, there is, some validity in it's up to audience interpretation, but there's certain things when the creator is like,
It's not sci-fi because it's not.
It's a fairy tale. It's fantasy.
Fairy tale in space.
But before we get into that, there wasn't much Star Wars news this week. It's a pretty slow week. Empire Magazine came out with a article that was breaking news from The Last Jedi, and it's just all stuff we already know.
Oh.
Basically, they had a little snippet, kind of. This makes me upset, where they're, further confirming that Leia's not going to be a 9 at all, which, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just really hope they don't just kill her off screen. I just don't want that to happen. I think it would just be so easy to keep her present, but maybe they're afraid that if they keep her present, they're going to be wondering why she's not. But no one's going to complain about that.
Right?
No one's gonna judge the movie because she couldn't have inevitably the scenes she's supposed to have with Kylo that are going to be handed off to Luke.
Right. Because you're gonna be like, well, we wanted that to happen, but there's nothing we can do.
There's nothing we can do.
We had to give the scene to Luke because he was the only one alive.
And I don't think anyone would critique that. I think it's just still possible to keep her present in the films without killing her, because I want these scenes to happen still, because they can in novels and comics.
Yes.
And
if you kill Leia, then they'll never be able to happen ever.
Yeah, so I just still have my fingers crossed that...
why would you... No, because there's so much that you could... Other media exists, and it's still important for that character, and...
and other media is also super prominent with Star Wars.
Yes. And also, Leia and Carrie deserve to continue on. You know what I mean?
I agree, and and her family agrees. Todd and Billy were both no, you keep Leia in these movies.
Yeah.
Carrie and Leia
move forward and get a happy ending, because that's what they deserve.
Yeah, that's what Leia deserves. And so I'm a little bit disappointed by that. I'm still hoping there's time to change
Well, they haven't even started shooting, have they?
They haven't started shooting, no.
Okay. I really, really hope that...
Some people are thinking they're still considering recasting, and I don't like that at all.
I don't like that. I hate that.
That's my least... That's my bottom of the list.
That's the worst option, is to recast. Personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously my ideal is just... obviously my ideal isn't plausible, but my ideal is just keeping her present with old footage.
Right.
You just need you can have her in the background.
It's super easy for her to have to go in hiding or something like that. She has to work from the shadows, so she won't be present in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll still be resistance base scenes, command scenes where she can still be there, and I think it probably, given what her role is in well, given what they could use footage from TFA too, because she is very much on the base giving orders, and I'm sure they have a bunch of footage they didn't use for that. And I'm sure The Last Jedi will have some similar scenes that they could do. But anyway, this isn't about that. It was kind of a bummer. Nothing else new was in that article at all. Wasn't very riveting.
It was like, it's gonna be about Rey on an island, and Luke's also on the island, and Kylo's mask gets destroyed.
They didn't mention Kylo at all. They were like, Luke is confirmed the Last Jedi. And I'm like, in The Force Awakens, they refer to Luke as the Last Jedi. I don't know why this is still a big thing. I guess Rian Johnson finally confirmed that he intended The Last Jedi to be singular.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
That was a thing, because people were like, oh, but the international titles are plural.
And he's like, well...
I didn't have control over that. They didn't ask me. To me, when I wrote it, it's singular.
It's singular.
So...
In English, we don't have to worry about that.
Nope. That's just how...
And then they didn't confirm it with me. Oops.
No, but apparently in some of the languages, it also was singular.
Oh. So in some languages it was singular, in some other languages it was plural, and now everyone's confused?
Everyone's confused, but Rian Johnson was like, guys, I intended it to be singular. One, because Luke has been known as the Last Jedi.
For a long time now.
And in case, you didn't get that from the original trilogy, I was watching The Force Awakens today, because I hadn't seen it in forever, and so I was just watching it for some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in the podcast.
Isn't it in the scroll?
It is.
Opening scroll?
One, it's in the opening scroll, or... I think it is in the opening scroll, but two, Snoke is just like, we have to go find, the Last Jedi. Blah. Alright, you got that. Anyway, that's basically all that really happened in Star Wars happenings. It's
going to be a little dead for a while. Going up to the movie, there's only so much that they can... keep releasing.
Because people are thinking they're waiting for Comic-Con, and I don't know. I don't think they're going to go to Comic-Con.
I don't think they are. If they have D23?
They have D23 and Celebration this year, and at least the Disney cons have been really adamant about keeping their franchises at their own conventions.
Right.
Because I think they made Marvel pull out. I
think Marvel
pull
out.
Yeah. And who knows if they'll let Star Wars have something at Comic-Con. I just don't really think so. I think the big stuff will be a full trailer. They could.
I think they would say that for D23.
I agree. I think they would say the big stuff for D23. I know Comic-Con is the big one, but if Disney is controlling it, they want the big stuff happening at their events.
At their own convention, yeah. They need a draw. Events. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see how that turns out, but we have the anniversary on the 25th, which I'll be at home for, so...
You will be.
I can't do anything about that. And I don't think much is going on anyway. Maybe just hopefully the Vanity Fair spread.
Maybe.
That's all I want, really.
When does The Forces of Destiny, do we have a release date for that?
Summer sometime.
Okay.
I'm sure it's going to be alongside the dolls. So, the first short drops, and you can probably... So it's probably going to be in August.
Got it.
I thought, recalling it maybe being sooner, but if they're smart with marketing, it'll be at the same time as...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
As the dollies. So, unless you have anything else you want to bring up.
Nope.
Nope, nothing else exciting happened this week. Let's get down to it. So, we're going to be talking about the fairy tale symbolism in these movies. Let's start off with the original trilogy, and just with the formula. I'm going to be talking about a lot of fairy tale symbolism in TFA, and how I think we'll be able to, basically piece together pieces of the story from there, because I think there's a lot that they pull from. But, just as the basis, the differences between sci-fi and fantasy and fairy tales.
In not the original trilogy, in the prequel trilogy, they tried to introduce sci-fi, and it was awful.
George was like, midichlorians, and everyone hated it.
Yep.
So, which is why I always find it so funny that people are so adamant that Star Wars is strictly sci-fi. Of course, there's sci-fi aspects to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's in space.
But it's mostly magic.
Mm-hmm. When your main power is magic...
Yeah.
It's fantasy.
Yes.
And I know they tried giving scientific reason to the Force and then
it was
immediately
garbage.
dropped it.
Yes.
Because everyone hated it. You're like, no, the Force is magic. It's a spiritual thing.
Yeah. It's telekinesis, guys. You can use it for other things, but it's mostly telekinesis.
Yeah. You're mostly a psychic. But, I mean, this is why I think, like, the biggest difference between, like, Star Trek and Star Wars is. And it's why I won't lie to you guys, I'm not very into Star Trek. I never have been. And it's why Star Wars is a much bigger, more important thing to me.
No, I completely agree, because I don't like sci-fi. So for the longest time, I thought I didn't like Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I also am still on the boat of, like, well, I don't really like the original trilogy, just because it's dated, personally.
Hey there.
Hey man, I'm starting to at least accept things of it.
Yes.
I like, obviously, what it does for the story.
Look at this angel.
Yes.
My dark angel.
But I was like, I don't like sci-fi, and everyone was like, well, you watch Star Wars, it's the best. I'm like, no, I don't like sci-fi. But now, I'm like, oh, this is way more fantasy than I thought it was.
When you take the story aspects at its core, you have like a kind of magical wizard boy who's just learning about his powers and who has to go save a princess from not a castle, but
basically
that. And then
the space version of a castle.
Yeah. And then you got Han Solo and Chewbacca, who are like the noble steeds who are along for this journey, and then you got the wise old man and Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. And you have to go fight the evil dark wizard.
Exactly. Who, and I'm sorry, like, the twist of him being a fantasy, I feel like, is a much more character-based art form, or like expression, I should say. And I feel like sci-fi is more about the intricacies of the world that they're building and like the science around it.
I agree.
And so
it's the difference between Mass Effect and Dragon Age.
There you go, throwing shade. You're playing Mass Effect right now.
I am.
So.
And I'm like, you know, it would be better if this were more fantasy driven. Just saying.
And also, when you have, like, the first movie's called A New Hope, and it starts off with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which
is the opening to
every fairy tale, except for it's a kingdom far, far away. That's, remember in Shrek, how their kingdom's called Far, Far Away? That's because it's a fairy tale thing to say.
It really is.
And if you couldn't be more obvious about what George was intending, it's the first line that you see in those films.
Yeah. Which,
I mean, again, I'm just talking about mostly the arguments that I get into with people. I tweeted something, I've told this story before, and it was when people were complaining that women don't belong in science fiction.
Well, first of all.
And I literally said, I'm like, well, and it was about Jyn being the main character of Rogue One. This was when that was happening. And some guys were like, women don't belong in science fiction. And one, get out of my life.
Yeah, one.
And two, well, good
Are you
for
kidding
you.
me?
Well, luckily for you, Star Wars is a fairy tale. And people thought I was joking. They were like, we're blogging at me, like, ha ha ha, this is a, like...
No, guys, I'm serious. It's a fairy tale.
Yeah. And, like, well, my comment had some jest in it, but, like, no, it really is a fairy tale, though, so...
It really, really, really is.
And I don't believe that any one gender belongs in one, like, what's the word I'm thinking? Genre more than the other.
Yeah. No.
But I hate to say it, like, when it comes to fairy tales, that's more of a, like, female-dominated
only
genre.
because fairy tales, like we were saying, are more character-driven, and I feel like it's about character growth. That's what fairy tales are all about. They're about a character going from one place to another and them growing through it. And don't tell me that's not what Star Wars is about.
Oh, yeah,
it's
100%.
Only about Luke's journey. It's about the Skywalker journey. It's not about anything else, and that's why it's a fantasy.
And I always just find it interesting, especially when you ask, like, people about Star Wars trivia, where you'll find, and, like, I don't want to say this with, obviously, 100%, like, this is set in stone, but generally, the male audience, like, if you're talking about trivia, will know every detail about the ships and, like, the weapons and all, like, these things, because that's what they're really interested in. But then you'll talk to a more female audience, and they're more interested in, like, the character growth, like, and the
who's
meanings
related to
that, like,
who, and like what this means. It's the same thing for, like, in comic books, male nerds will remember the issue number that this and this happened. And I'm like, I couldn't remember that to save my life. Because I don't care about the numbers. I care about character journeys.
Exactly.
They'll be like, well, what, if you're a real comic book nerd, what issue did Damien first show up in? And I'm like, I don't care, but I could tell you everything else about Damien. I don't care where he showed up in. I don't care about how tall he is or how much he weighs. I could tell you how he's feeling in his relationship to another character and how much he's grown over the years. I could tell you about that till I'm blue in the face.
And, like, that's actually something I want to save for, like, another podcast is, like, gatekeeping within fandom. Because
especially Star Wars.
It's really bad, especially with TFA coming out, where a lot of female fans are coming into it. And I feel like it's caused some ugly stuff.
And Rogue One, too. They're like, well, if Rogue One's your favorite Star Wars movie, you're not a Star Wars fan. I'm like, oh my god.
But I will save that for another time, because I think it's going to be a really... probably very ranty debate.
Yes.
Not debate, but...
Yeah, not at all debate.
We're going to agree with each other all the time. But we're going to be pretty angry, just because it is really difficult when you're being asked to prove yourself constantly. And you're being asked to prove yourself with these minute details of being like, what's another name for the wings on an X-Wing? I'm like, I only know this because that was a trivia question somebody was asked. But, like...
You're like, I don't care. That's not what Star Wars is about.
No. That's... Like, ask me anything else about the story itself. But you don't ask me about, like, the small details of what the under part of this part of the gun is called.
If you're a real fan,
you would know. But no.
There's no real fans.
Oh my god. Anyway, so let's cut into the hot and heavy, where we're going to talk about fairy tale symbolism in the current sequel trilogy, because there's a lot of it.
Yes.
I don't know. Let's start off with, just before anyone wants to argue with me, just in case there is, J.J. Abrams.
Hi, J.J.
Hey, J.J. We know you listen to the podcast. How you doing, man?
Sorry about any shade that we've ever thrown at you. You did a fine job.
I think you did a fine job. I only have problems with one character arc.
Yep.
But, so J.J. Abrams himself, in the commentary for The Force Awakens, said that Star Wars at its core is a fairy tale story.
So we have George Lucas and J.J. Abrams both saying this.
And so we know that J.J. approached this movie wanting to include fairy tale symbolism. And he was like, there's certain things that every fairy tale needs. And you need, like, a prince, you need a princess, and you need a castle. And, like, obviously one...
Who's the prince?
Who's the prince?
Well, is it Poe?
Well... He looks like one.
He looks like he could be a Disney prince, but...
We have Maz's castle, that obviously takes place as the castle, and we have a literal royal, like... Prince. If you're arguing who that is, it's...
Hey guys, it's Kylo. Just in case you forgot that's Princess Leia's son. And that makes him a prince, and also a Skywalker. Let's move on.
Let's move on. And JJ also calls Kylo the prince in the story. He's... Like, it's when Kylo takes off his mask for the first time, and you're like, oh, and then you see Adam Driver, who looks like this prince.
He's just a dark, weepy prince.
Oh, yeah, my dark, sad, beautiful boy.
Here he is.
I love him. I'm like, no one loves Kylo Ren more than Anthony Carboni, who's the co-host of the Star Wars show. He's like,
more than you?
Maybe we're up there. Pretty up.
Because I'm like, there. I live with you. I know your deep, dark secrets.
I just keep staring back at this, like, Kylo stand-up figure with his tinfoil hat.
And then also gazing past that to your Kylo Ren wall in your room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. Anyway, so... And also, in Bloodline by Claudia Gray, they give Kylo a planet that he's in line to inherently rule. It's more of a vanity title on Biren. You don't really do anything besides... have people worship you.
You're like, I'm the prince.
And Leia was offered that title, and she was like, no.
My planet was Alderaan.
And she's like, I have other stuff to do. I don't really want to be a princess again. They're like, how about your son? Does your son want to rule our planet? And then she's like, really not.
He's kinda...
He's going through stuff.
He's going through puberty, and he's like, how old is he? He's like, he's a late bloomer.
He's 23.
Late bloomer.
It's fine. He shouldn't rule a planet, no. But I just, like, love how Leia just immediately goes, oh, no.
No.
He'd hate that. I just want to know what Kylo, like, Ben was like.
Me too.
Because apparently, like, there's little hints is that he was just kind of an ass. Like, he was just Han.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense.
And I'm like, I want to see that.
He's Han, and his dad's gone, and his mom is very busy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm a fucking prince.
I just kind of, like, hates everything and doesn't want anything to do with anyone. Who knows? I hope we get Luke Ben books.
Me too.
In the future.
Comics, something.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get some stuff in TFA. I'm not sure if I don't think we'll get flashbacks, but because I want to actually...
I think we'll get dreams.
Be there. Yeah. We'll either get dreams or hopefully novels and comics in the future, because I want to see teenage Ben Solo.
I think it would be a vast miss opportunity if they didn't do that, so I think they'll do it eventually. Mm-hmm. I really, really do. After the movies are done, though.
Yeah.
Is what I definitely think.
So, we've got the prince and the castle covered, and like, this is just taking words from JJ's mouth, where he calls Rey Cinderella, which, that was always a kind of a weird comparison to me.
She seems way more like
Belle?
or Mulan, if you were to call her two things. Not Cinderella. I guess because she escapes this dingy life as a slave.
In the beginning, I can see the Cinderella story happening, where obviously she's just cleaning up things for...
She's a literal slave.
Yeah, her family's gone, and there's definitely some aspects of Cinderella I can see why they're saying it, but the time he makes this comparison makes no sense.
Doesn't he do it during the battle?
No, he makes it during JJ makes this comment when Rey holds the lightsaber and has, like, the force vision, and it terrifies her, and she starts running away. And I can see maybe him saying it because she's like, oh, it's like Cinderella running from the castle when it's midnight.
But it's more like Belle after she
finds the rose.
And, like,
yeah. And how the enchanted rose, like one, it's where the beast comes in and is like, fuck you, get away from this thing, and she gets terrified and runs off and runs from the castle. And that's where it's, like, super parallel, because one, Kylo's in this force vision and is the one who terrifies the crap out of her and makes her leave. And then that's when, in Beauty and the Beast, it's a turning point for Beast when he goes after Belle and saves her, but Kylo also shows up, but...
He shows up, but not to save her. He does take her away.
Literally.
It's true.
I guess.
Oh my gosh. She's the Beast.
Because
Kylo's the beauty who's like, come here, I'll carry you back because you are unconscious.
Tinfoil hat theory, I'm right. Rey, Harbinger of Doom.
She's the Beast, and Kylo's the beauty. He's like, here you go, I'll carry you back.
But, like, in particular, there's so much Beauty and the Beast symbolism.
Oh no, there really is.
Before we get too tinfoil hatty, like, digging it in, this one, I flip back and forth between I thinking it's intentional or not, but Rey's theme sounds exactly like the prologue to Beauty and the Beast. I think someone actually not tore it apart, but looked it up, and it's literally one note apart. And other than that, it's identical. I'll put it here. I'll put the comparison for you guys to listen to.
Oh, wow.
So, obviously, it is very, very similar, and I kind of flip back and forth between thinking it's intentional or not, because John Williams did say, he's like, I have no idea if that's... or I had no idea, like, who Rey's parents are. I think he even said he thought she was Luke's daughter. I might be making that up. They may not even be true. But, obviously... I don't even think... He probably... I don't know.
I don't think he could know, because I don't think JJ doesn't have a clue.
I think JJ knows. Well, Rey knows who her parents were, so obviously JJ had to know. But I think the editor... That's why I think Rey's parents don't matter. Is because the editor for TFA kept saying that they kept re-editing the Force back a lot, because she was like, I don't think JJ even really knew where Rey came from.
Right.
And so I think that's why it's not really important. So he hadn't really figured that out. So he's like, it's not my job to figure that out. I just know she's no one. I don't need the details of her nothingness, but it's in there. So, continuing on with some more of these parallels, I actually found out about the second part of this before today. Rey's house has like a bunch of trinkets that are very, like, Beauty and the Beast, like, hinty.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. For one, she has a wilting rose in her house. Like, you can make that argument that it's just her, like, attempt to make it homey, but it is a wilting rose, and right next to it is something that oddly looks like a bell. It's just a bell that's right next to it, and then right behind it is a teapot. And so, like, these are other things that you need, but it's just that when you put it all together...
You don't need a bell.
Yeah, you don't need the bell. I can't really tell what it is, but it does look like a bell. I'm only hesitant of it because I know I've got a little bit of a tinfoil hat brain going on.
You're like, I want it to be there, so I think it's there.
Yeah, but I don't know what else it is. It definitely looks like a bell, though. And there's just other little pieces of symbolism in there where, like, Maz calls the First Order beasts. She literally uses that word, and that word has never been used to describe a group of people, or people in Star Wars. And Kylo's constantly dehumanized. He's like a creature, a monster, and beast. And that's
all things that Beast gets called in the movie, obviously.
Obviously. And also that's something that's pretty uncommon to do to Star Wars characters. I actually did take the liberty of looking up these words in the script and seeing if they're used at all beforehand, and like literally the only other time the word beast is used is 3PO when he's talking about the Jawas. Like, oh, those beasts!
Yep.
And so I think that, like, the conscious dehumanization of Kylo Ren is pretty symbolic there. You also have the "you're my guest" line, which subtle, but when you're adding these little things in there, and like, because I know it's a touchy subject, Rey and Kylo is. We all know how I personally feel about their dynamic, but for people who maybe aren't totally on board, like, a Beauty and the Beast storyline doesn't have to necessarily be romantic. It's literally just a person
helping another person find themselves again.
Exactly!
Like, that's what it is. It's because Beast had given up on himself. He'd given up on ever being, like, a human again.
Only human again. When you're human again.
Yep. But it's about... Yeah, it's literally just about a person helping another person, like, regain confidence in themselves and, like, become human again.
Yeah.
And, like, finding the light.
Finding the light, finding their, like, want to be good.
Their humanity.
Yeah, their humanity.
After they've given up, they're like, I deserve everything that's ever happened to me. And the world was mean to me. And I'll be mean too. And then, oh wait, maybe this isn't the good way to be.
You come across somebody who has this inherent, like, goodness that begins to
resonate deep within you, and you're like, oh, this is what humanity is.
Exactly. So, honestly, before people get too touchy about it either way, that's what the story of Beauty and the Beast is. And I think that...
It definitely doesn't have to be romantic.
No, it can be any sort of quote-unquote love story. And
I'd be totally fine if Rey and Kylo didn't end up together, but she still ends up, like, helping him along.
Yeah.
Totally fine with that. Would I rather them, like, maybe get together? I would. But I'd totally be fine if she also just doesn't have any love interest at all.
Yeah. Like, because I obviously think it's a really interesting story, and involves... And I just know that it would make Rey go through this really interesting character journey, where she really has to fight her own inner demons in order to understand what Kylo has become, and, like, why he's become that way. And just because this is a next generation story, where Luke Skywalker isn't going to be the end all for these movies. It's going to be about the next generation. And
absolutely.
Unless for some reason Rey ends up being a Skywalker, which I don't believe, anymore at all.
Me neither.
And I just want to come out and say, I thought Rey was hands down a Skywalker when I walked out of that movie.
Which is so funny because I didn't.
I did. It wasn't until the second time where I heard Maz's line being like, your family's never coming back for you, but
Somebody else.
Luke could.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, she's not.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly because I was just thinking of the obvious.
Well, it's because of casting. Because she looks like Padme's kid.
Oh yeah, she's from the Padme line. That's why I like the theory is that she's like a descendant of one of Padme's handmaidens.
Oh, that'd be cute.
Yeah,
actually. But
it's a cute little thing. So, but yeah, a lot had to do with just her look and just how mysterious her parents were. You just had to assume they were related.
And because she gets the Skywalker lightsaber, you're like, guys.
Oh, everyone thought it was the lightsaber, and I didn't think the lightsaber proved anything at all. I'm just like, that's a Force-sensitive object, and that's her proving that she's Force-sensitive. That's all that scene meant to me. I just walked out of there being like, oh, it's so obvious she's Luke's daughter. And then second time, I'm like, now, like, fast forward to 2017 me, I'm like, she's Luke's daughter over my dead body.
If she's Luke's daughter, I'm done.
I'm done with this BS.
I sure am glad I didn't buy a Rey sideshow figure, because garbage.
But anyway, there's like platonic love stories, there's familial love stories, and romantic loves. I mean, isn't in Greek terminology, isn't there like 7 different kinds of love?
Yeah, I think so.
So, love stories don't have to necessarily be romantic. No. There's certain parts of me that think it might go that way. I think it's definitely one-sided, going to be one-sided from Kylo. I think that's pretty blatant in TFA by the end of it. Yeah. He's just like a sad, like, oh, she's... Like, especially when you put the comparison of how he treats everybody else compared to how he reacts to Rey doing the same things. Like, Finn having the lightsaber versus Rey having the lightsaber.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, give that shit back to me when it's Finn, and then when Rey gets it, he's like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
He was like, hey, let me teach you. We should spar more often. Ow! Why did you hurt me? Why are you being so mean?
I was so beautiful. What have you done to me?
Does that mean she likes me because she's picking on me?
No. Because
I go back and forth with wanting to maybe have this trilogy end without a love story.
The only reason why I'm leaning more towards yes is because I don't think they want to shut the door to more movies.
I also agree, and also this is a fairy tale, so it probably will have a love story.
But speaking of alternative love stories, because I think this one is confirmed no matter what, basically, is Finn and Rose.
Absolutely.
And if you wanted, there's a character named Rose. Guys.
Beauty and the Beast.
But, hey guys, what other famous fairy tale is very prominent with roses?
Sleeping Beauty?
Yeah! Good job, kids. So I think Finn's story is going to be Sleeping Beauty.
Well, yeah, because I have a feeling that he's going to be asleep for a good half of this movie. I mean, that's literally the only thing they've
started it.
Yeah.
With something that, I think is intentional. I don't know if it is. But with Rey kissing Finn, and it's just like the forehead kiss, and he doesn't wake up. It's very... That's not the true love story. And I think that's really the only reason they'd have... And again, John Boyega has come out and fully said that Rey and Finn are just friends.
Yes.
So, if it wasn't...
He wouldn't be allowed to say that if it wasn't true.
Yeah. And if he hadn't said that, I'd be maybe more on the fence about where that was going or what Rey's actions meant. But since John seems pretty adamant that they're just friends, and actually I'm not sure they even spend much time together at all in the second movie, if any time.
Yeah, I'm still thinking if they do, it's going to be in passing. And very quickly in
speaking
passing.
Just like, there was interviews with John and Daisy separately, and the interviewer asked them both separately, how was it like being back on set with John/Daisy? And both of them were like, we weren't together. Not so much that obvious, but John told a story about something a story he's already told about TFA, about the set on TFA. So you're like, okay, obviously he has no new stories. And Daisy just says, well, actually, I spend most of my time with Mark, so when we were together, it was like,
It was like, oh,
it just really
great
seems
to
like,
see you,
yeah.
but yeah.
It just really seems like they don't spend that much time together in this movie, if
Well,
anything at all.
Because I'm assuming Daisy spends almost all of her time filming in Ireland.
I'm guessing she is mostly on Octo.
And then...
Another Beauty and the Beast prediction of mine, Luke gets off the island, but Rey and Kylo don't. That's...
Dad leaves, and then...
Yeah, Dad leaves, but Rey stays.
Uh-huh.
Because Rey knows that Kylo can follow her.
Mm.
So she's like, I can't go with you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just another...
Maybe.
B-A-T-B parallel that I'm looking into.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, back to Finn. So... Like, with the amount that John really just blatantly... He didn't even sort of toy with maybe not. He's like, no, that it's going to go in another direction.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that kiss... kissing the sleeping person and then them waking up is supposed to be, like, the true love.
Mm-hmm.
And when JJ is pushing this fairy tale stuff so much, I do think that was intentional of her...
We're not saying that Rose is gonna kiss Finn and he's gonna wake up.
No,
no.
I don't. Not saying that at all.
That's not what we're saying.
I'm just saying this is more symbolism of not Beauty and the Beast, of Sleeping Beauty, where the fact that he should have woken up and that there's just someone else.
Yes.
I do, like...
He will wake up to continue his story with another person.
And so there's multiple ways roses are brought into Sleeping Beauty. I mean, there's definitely versions of Sleeping Beauty, not the Disney version, where she gets pricked by a rose. Which could be interesting things for Rose. But
And also because roses don't roses blind the prince? Or am I thinking of Rapunzel?
I think you're thinking of Rapunzel.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's Rapunzel.
I'm trying to think of classic
fairy
tales.
I know, like, the thorns, like, gouge out his eyes, but that's Rapunzel.
Okay, that's Rapunzel, got it.
But in the Disney version of Sleeping Beauty, Aurora's name that she's lived by is literally Briar Rose.
Right.
And then when Sleeping Beauty's asleep, she has, like, a rose over her chest that she's, like, holding the entire time she's asleep. So I just think there's... And when you have so many different, like, Star Wars-y names, and you name a character Rose...
Yeah, it's an interesting name. When they announced her name as Rose, I still am kind of like... Well, she's super cute, but I kind of just don't feel like Rose fits her. Obviously, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. I mean, but the name that I had in my head was not Rose. When they, like, we didn't get, like, a full...
But we saw Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, we knew what Kelly Marie Tran looked like, and I was like...
That's why I'm thinking the name has more symbolic reasons.
Yeah, I definitely pictured it was going to be, like, a harsher name. I couldn't tell you what I thought it was going to be, but not something...
I mean, no one else really has that human... I guess Finn's sort of a human name, but his name's not even really Finn. It's like FN2N87. And do you ever think about how Poe named Finn?
I do. I love it. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Finn and Rose will be very cute. But I think that you had such organic chemistry between Finn and Poe that it will always disappoint me that they will never be able to carry through with that.
Mm-hmm. And I do think they needed just a more blatantly obvious love story. So yeah, I think Finn and Rose will probably be the more obvious love story and the more pure love story. Because I think people will want... There's people who are going to want something a little bit... Just watch something more cutesy, and their interactions obviously will be more comedic-based. They'll be the comedic duo of the film, and...
Which is still so interesting to me.
And I think Finn will actually be... it's just what John was saying. I think Finn will have the Stormtrooper moments that I wanted, where he just doesn't understand human emotions.
Well, that's fine then. Good.
Because that's what I wanted from him originally.
Right.
He seemed too aware of humor, and...
I agree.
But, like, obviously I think Finn was wonderfully played. I think it was just JJ's...
JJ didn't fully grasp the character, or...
It was very clear that Finn didn't come
in
until much later, which is what we knew. Finn was one of the last characters to be brought into it. And I think beyond, make him a former Stormtrooper, they're like, ooh, good idea, but they didn't change what they had written for that character at all. Because I know before he wasn't a Stormtrooper. He was just like some guy. And then someone made the suggestion to make him a Stormtrooper, and I just don't feel like they changed much of anything else after that.
I'm excited for him too.
Yeah, he'll go on a real nice adventure, and we'll see if Poe
dies.
Well, I don't...
He might.
He might. It's possible. I can't imagine, because they keep flipping back and forth between is TFA darker. Mm-hmm. Depending on who you're talking to, half of them are like, it's a lot darker, and other people are like, actually, it's a lot more funny. Which, if I'm recalling correctly, I think it was Poe who said it was a lot darker, and I think it was even Adam Driver who said it was a lot funnier. He's like, Kylo's a hoot. He's actually, because I was rewatching the movie today, I'm like, Kylo's really funny.
He is!
And he, like, intentionally tells jokes, like, a few times.
Does he?
Yeah. Just the sass, where it's, like, the droid stole the freighter, and, like, well, no, not the... The droid stole the freighter? And when she's, like, super sassy to Hux. And he's like, your men seem really highly trained in high treason. So, good job, you! Man! He's just a sassy asshole.
He's like, Han Solo is my dad!
It's quite obvious when you take those lines.
When you take Han Solo and Princess Leia and have them make a kid, it's gonna be a sass master.
Mm-hmm. Sass master. So, anyways, is there anything else you want to add that you feel like you want to talk about?
Just TFA-wise? In fairy tale symbolism? Yeah. I think we kind of touched on most of the things. I can't really think of anything to add TFA-wise.
You can... I mean, if you go Tangled, Rey, Punzel, and Finn Rider. Cute. I'm just trying to add more fun things, but...
Are you gonna try to defend BB-8 again?
I am! Hold on, kids!
Because you said that you had some stuff, and I'm like, it's never gonna work.
Oh no, I have nothing new about BB-8, but I'm still... BB-8, guys, what does it stand for? Beauty and the Beast.
How?
Alright, guys, so BB, obviously, Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
8, and the AT-8. BB-8.
What?
Yes!
AT-8, what? What does that even mean?
So, 8, like, and the AT...
Oh my god.
8... But if you say 8... AT, if you
Nobody
say AT
says
really
eat.
quick. If you say AT really quickly, though, you get 8.
At. If you say AT really quickly, it's at.
Or, if you take the little and symbol, kind of looks like an 8.
Oh my god.
Or, I think someone brought this up in comments, because they were with me.
No!
The
one person who almost got me. And then I was like, wait, you're wrong, it's the 7th movie. They were like...
The eighth, though, in chronological order.
Rogue One hadn't come out yet!
But they knew Rogue One was going to come out.
It's a standalone!
But it could be predicting that episode 8 is where you really see it.
No! Because then, if Han Solo comes out, it's the 9th one chronologically, and it still doesn't work.
Damn it. Or...
No.
Guys.
Or it just doesn't work.
Or... both of the Beast and Kylo's human names are Adam. Nailed it! I'm out, everybody.
But Adam's not even...
Not even episode.
Beast canon